Hello, podcast listeners. Don't hit any baseballs into this episode of JJ Meets World or you might shrink. Sit back, enjoy this look at Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the television series, the ride, and the movies. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcast and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4. J.J. Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is! He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. J.J. has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled and he's fun and then he twirls as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called JJ Meets World.
Tuck Everlasting, I wanted to talk to you about a series of films that I think do not get enough credit, but should be required watching for every child in America. Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. Recently, my coworker said that she came home and her husband was showing her 8-year-old and her 6-year-old. Oh my gosh. 5 or 6, I can't remember which, but was letting them watch Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And I said, God, what I would give to go back and watch that movie again for the first time ever.
Not only would I go back in time to do that, I would do a full viewing of 1, 2, and 3.
Oh yeah,
I would in succession because they are all classics in their own right. You know, number one, it's Raiders of the Lost Ark. You're never going to get as good as that, right?
Right.
But the other two, both with Rick Moranis, right? So he sticks around and he's the glue. He's the Phil Hartman. You got to have Rick Moranis in this movie to make it a worthy movie. But yes, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. What an absolute amazing. You know what that first movie made me obsess over was the idea of being like a scientist working on an amazing invention in like an attic or a basement. Right?
Yeah.
I loved the idea that it looked like he knew what he was doing. He's doing all this technical stuff and I have no clue what's happening, right? And all of that Hollywood science always made me want to be that dude so that you come over and you hear like, and
you'd see like blue flashes through the window,
and then I come out and I've got eye goggles to protect my eyes from all the soldering or whatever I've been doing, and I lift them up and you can see that it's a lot of pitch black soot on my face.
The last time we talked about Wayne Szalinski, who is the main character, is when I was pitching my idea for a cinematic universe of movie scientists who have to get together to like save the earth, essentially. So not superheroes, but just like really just amazing like scientists. And Wayne Szalinski was the one who really made me think there could be a shared universe of these scientists. And so they each get like their own movie and then they cross over, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Here are the things that really captivated me. So in 1994, 5 years after Honey, I Shrunk the Kids came out, my family went on a trip to Disney World. And it was both one of the greatest and worst trips of my entire life because, as we know, my parents had problems with alcohol, and that even spilled into the happiest place on earth. And that was pretty horrific, and I won't forget that stay anytime soon. But one of the things that they had there was they had built this gigantic playground themed after Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. So you're walking in these giant blades of grass. There's a 20-foot long cookie. There's a huge Lego. And essentially, like, you feel as you shrunk, there's a giant ant that you can get on. I've got a picture of myself sitting on top of the ant. And it just was so immersive, as well as the one thing that we should add to this of required viewing is not only Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, but Honey, I Shrunk the Audience. And this was a theater-based ride. Yeah. Okay. So it didn't move. You're all in a theater, but it was the first time I had ever experienced 4D. So you put on 3D glasses, but it also had stuff like, you know, that essentially like a little water that shot out at you and like air. And so the idea is that Eric Idle playing the head of the Nobel Peace Committee, is awarding Wayne Szalinski and the original cast of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids with this award for his incredible technology, and he asks him about it, and he accidentally shrinks the entire audience. And so the dog comes over, and when the dog is sniffing you, you can feel little droplets of moisture coming onto your face. That ride blew me away. And I
Where
saw
in
it
the
twice.
continuity does that belong?
It'd be between 1 and 2.
Okay.
Yeah. Right? Yeah. No, I'm wrong. It's between 2 and 3.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me think about this. I gotta confirm because I'm pretty sure the baby is a part of it. Oh, honey.
This would be then canon.
It absolutely is.
Because does Wayne Szalinski talk about having the Nobel in 3?
I don't know if he does bring that up.
Because then maybe it takes place post 3.
That would make sense. I mean, that would make sense. You know what else is sad is they've had to get rid of this.
I'm trying to remember. Yeah, does the tech remain secret? I can't remember what happened. I mean, I understand the premise of how the 3 shrinking or blowing ups happened, but I'm trying to remember. Does Zelensky ever reveal this technology to the world? Because he does.
I'm
trying to remember.
Yep. So in the second one, his technology is being used to flip and make things big, and so he's working at an institute that is owned by Lloyd Bridges of all people. And then in the third one, they have a very specific line where his brother says, "Wayne, you've been banned by the federal government, something, 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 and your wife from ever using that shrink ray again." Yes. Okay.
And is the TV series like an Elseworlds then?
It is. And the TV series, don't sleep on it. It doesn't have the cast, but it's a very creative way because it goes through all the other things of science, right? It's not just shrinking and it's all the other things that Wayne Szalinski, this genius. So in Honey, I Shrunk the Audience, Nigel Channing is the character that Eric Idle plays. Attempts to introduce Diane, Wayne's wife, but she says she has to go and help find Wayne. She takes Quark, the family dog. Channing then introduces Wayne's sons, Nick and Adam. So Adam is the little kid. So this is post Honey, I Blew Up the Kid.
Okay.
But it looks like it's maybe at the same exact time. It's released this summer that Honey, I Blew Up the Kid comes out, which is interesting, right?
Yeah. One of my absolute favorite gags from Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves is when they find the Sports Illustrated in his son's bedroom.
Right.
And they shoot it, you think it's porno.
Uh-huh. And then they're like, oh, it's sports. You know what's interesting is, so Honey, okay, so if you've never seen this, the premise is Wayne Szalinski is a dreamer, right? And he's trying to invent a shrink ray. Things are not going well. He also is having problems with his marriage at the same time. And so his parents have been separated for a week, just taking some time to breathe. And
like Moranis' character is separated from his wife, technically.
Yeah. So they've been the beginning of the movie is filled with a lot of is mom going to come home today and whatever. And so the kids are having to get the house clean while Rick Moranis goes to present his ideas. He is laughed out of his presentation because he can't prove anything other than a great way to make applesauce, as they joke about it. And next door, the neighbors, the Thompsons, are getting ready to go on a fishing trip, and their 2 sons, their older son is in love with the girl next door, and their younger son is kind of a bully and bullies the younger son of the Szalinski family. Well, this kid, the bully, hits a baseball, and it goes into the Rick Moranis' attic where he is experimenting, and the baseball diffuses the laser beam and actually allows the machine to work. And it's do 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 do. And the kids end up going upstairs to find the baseball and get shrunk themselves. Rick Moranis comes in, not realizing that the machine works, and he gets mad at it, and he hits it with a bunch of stuff. Obviously, he's very sad and aggressive about where his life is. He sweeps up everything, including his kids, by accident, puts it in a garbage bag, takes it out to the alley, throws it in the dumpster, and then the kids now have to make a trek, which would be the equivalent of 20 miles for their size from the garbage can to the house while dealing with scorpions and rain.
The death of the ant.
Oh, huge. The ride that they take on top of a bumblebee.
Where are they in the U.S. where they've got scorpions in their backyard?
California.
Okay.
So my understanding, like I think I saw on a license plate, it's a California address. And it for sure is California in the second one.
And backyard scorpions are a thing in California?
Oh, yeah, they got scorpions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Backyard scorpions.
Yeah.
Shit.
I mean, because it was like one of the red scorpions, so like not even the one that like is threatening to human beings, but
I thought they were all threatening to human beings.
Oh, no, like there's smaller scorpions. I mean, it would probably hurt if you got stung by it, but it wouldn't be deadly. The way that I think we all think scorpions, based off the film The Scorpion King, would be deadly. So
Oscar winner.
Right. So they have to make it back. Wayne also has to fix the machine. He and his wife reconcile, and he delivers the titular line, "Honey, I Shrunk the Kids." And the second movie involves Wayne, who now is working for a company, and the guy who's his direct supervisor is a real dick. He's just an ass. And he has like this moment of clarity where he's like, oh, if I did this would help make the engorging ray better. And he accidentally zaps his son, and his son grows every time he's around an electrical current. So, for example, like when he's in front of the TV, he like grows a little bit more, and so on and so forth. And his son ends up growing to the equivalency of like, it's got to be like 15 stories tall. And he's a toddler, so he doesn't respond well to other things. And it eventually takes place in the showdown in Las Vegas on the old strip, where they're like, oh my God, all that electricity. And so they have to turn off all these things, and they get the son to chase a ice cream truck because the kid loves ice cream, and gets him to chase. And then they're going to use the shrink ray, which they pull out of storage to shrink him back to regular size. Great movie. It's a great movie. And then the third one is Wayne and his wife have a slight disagreement as husband and wife because he has this, like 10-foot tall tiki man that he loves, but his wife doesn't want him to keep it anymore. So he now owns Zelinsky Enterprises, where he's inventing stuff all the time, including at the very beginning, a liquid that highway workers were supposed to drink that would make them translucent, so that while they're working at night, the only problem was it doesn't go through their clothes. So at one point, both he and his brother are pulling up and like their bellies are glowing, but like you can't see it because when they put down their shirts. And so Wayne decides to bring the shrink ray because he'll shrink Tiki Man, and then he can just keep him like on his keychain and be fine like that. Unfortunately, due to a series of mishaps, the shrink ray shrinks both he and his brother, as well as his sister-in-law and his wife. And they now, their kids show up, and the kids are all like, oh, mom and dad are gone. And so they decide to like have a ruckus party, even though the adults are actually in the house.
Who plays his brother? I can't remember.
You would recognize the character actor. It was Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves.
Because the neighbors from We Shrunk the Kids, do they ever reappear
in anything? Oh, they never do.
So that's the last time you see them.
Yeah, and in fact, like you only see the daughter for about 2 minutes in Honey, I Blew Up the Kid, but the son is still there. They've moved that. So it's a different house than the one that they had before.
Okay.
And it's a different kid playing their youngest son as well too. The guy's name is Stuart Pankin.
Yeah.
And like
name sounds familiar.
Right? And so Stuart Pankin, probably best known, he's still alive. He's 78 years old. You would probably recognize him the most from Arachnophobia. Oh yeah, he was good in Arachnophobia. Filmography. So we'll go a little forward. He's in Mannequin 2. Life Stinks. Oh, he was good in Life Stinks.
Stuart what? Pankin?
Pankin. Stuart. He Big Bully, Napoleon. He was in Striptease, Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves. Baby Huey's Great Easter Adventure. I know you love that one, Tucker. It's one of your favorites, right?
I was thinking in terms of baby team up movie with like Baby's Day Out Baby and Baby from Honey, We Blew Up the Kid Baby.
He's in a movie called Fat Zombie from 2014. I think we might need to search that one out. He's in a lot of movies that don't even have Wikipedia pages.
I do not remember this guy at all.
Oh, he's done a bunch of stuff. He always plays like the pompous, like fat. He does this thing where like laughs come out, like condescending laughs where it starts like in his gut and it rises up and it like makes his head bobble. Like that's his signature move.
Huh.
So anyway, the third one notably is a straight to video.
Okay, that was my next question. I was like, I could have swore it went straight to
no
was it
theatrical
VHS or
release.
DVD?
VHS. We're talking like 1997.
Yeah.
So just before the
Have
DVD
they ever
revolution.
released like a Blu-ray or a 4K of that?
I don't know.
I'm gonna look while you talk about it.
So that one, I feel like gets the most love from people. I feel like Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, while it certainly was the farthest in what was available at the time for effects, I don't think it looks as good as the other two. The other two are major Hollywood movies, and this did have the feel of a straight-to-video aspect. But it is fun. I mean, anytime that you have to make a set where somebody is really tiny interacting with things like in Honey, We Shrunk Ourselves, there's a scene where Wayne has to rewire a speaker and he does it with a piece of like tinfoil from gum so that he turns a speaker into an amplifier for like as a microphone, and his brother's like, "This is God, leave this house."
There is a compilation Blu-ray of the trilogy.
Oh, okay.
So there's at minimum there is that.
I can't imagine they did a lot of
I don't
work
think they
to
did like a
upscale it.
4K restoration or anything
Which
like
is
that.
too bad because like, so the director, I was on my way here and I was listening to the suite from the composers for the first two. So James Horner does the score for Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. And I don't know the last time you watched it, it has an animated opening of like the kids being chased by a dustbuster, and like it was very popular like in the late 80s to do like an animated opening. Sort of like we'll concentrate on getting the opening credits done while this, but the score to the first one is great, and the score to the second one is done by a guy named Bruce Broughton. And Bruce Broughton is another composer I really, really like and has like did some great stuff, but is also different. And like he uses like a lot of like big horns to like and it just is really, really good. I like both of those are really, really good. I don't remember much about the score from the third one other than they include like kids party music that I'm sure had been licensed by Disney. Like their idea of like throwing a party was we'll invite two boys over and we'll make a hot fudge sundae. Also, I actually, you know what? Because of the third one, I know that bananas are loaded with potassium because one of the kids goes into a coma.
That's right.
Because he doesn't have enough potassium.
That's right.
And I don't recall that being like a thing, but apparently it was.
Was there ever a straight to DVD Honey, We Shrunk, I Shrunk, I guess what would we call it? The Honey Shrunk series?
The
Honey
Shrunk
universe?
Shrunk series?
The Shrunkiverse?
Yeah.
The Shrinkiverse? Or the Zelenskyverse?
Well, I like that better.
Something along those lines, where that was technically a canon follow-up to number 3, but
I don't
it
believe
just doesn't
so.
have Rick Moranis in it or anything.
I don't
So they
believe
went
so.
to the TV series after 3.
Correct.
Okay.
And again, the TV series is worth your time because it stars, I can't remember the other guy who's in Bosom Buddies who's not Tom Hanks.
It's not Tom Hanks.
Peter Scolari, I think is his name. And he does he's a good Wayne Zelinsky, and the family gets involved in stuff. I remember one like where they encounter aliens that was pretty good, and it just like I think it was called Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, the TV series. So it wasn't really, it was very good. And today, here's what amazes me. So they closed the Honey, I Shrunk the Kids Playland that was in Disney World was open from 1994 until 2016. So a really long life for something inside the Disney parks, to be honest. And they tore it out to make Galaxy's Edge, the Star Wars land that they have at Disney World. And there are people who are incensed that they tore this thing down, right? They're like, number one,
The memories.
it didn't have a line, right? It was an open area play place, which is perfect for some place like Disney World. So you've been so used to working on lines, and you could run around, and there's all this stuff going on. I should see if I can find the picture of me riding on that ant, because it was good. It was good stuff. I'm also wearing, I think, like a Phoenix Suns baseball cap, and maybe a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle shirt. You can really tell what era that was for JJ Gordon. But it was like the thing upon my recent rewatch of it, the thing that I got from this that I think is missing from modern movies is it's an adventure, right? And the peril is not, world ending. The peril is I've got to get from point A to point B, and I'm interacting with things I know about, but I'm having to learn in a new, in a new frame.
Yep.
I just love it. It's so good.
Yeah, watching
so
his dad almost eat him in Cheerios turned me off to Cheerios.
Right? No, Dad, don't eat me.
I could only ever associate it with all the visuals of the inside of Rick Moranis' mouth and stuff.
This movie came out when I was 6 years old, and I had to be the one to ask my older cousins what the joke meant when the sister almost drowns in like the river of like, it could be dog pee, it could be like, because they're like walking by it and they're like, oh, what is that? And they're like, it's a river. It's like, it doesn't smell like a river, and it looks thick, and so there's also an automatic sprinkler system that starts, and so I think that it starts flowing, but they pull her out, and she's like, it's viscous, right? It's not just like water, but like it covers her, and she almost drowns, and the neighbor boy gives her mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, and her little brother Nick goes, where'd you learn that? And he looks and he goes, French class. And then at the end, they've got a recall to it when they're having like Thanksgiving dinner together with the Thompsons because they're best friends, and their turkey is ginormous, which is a plot point I would like them to address in the second one. Like, clearly he's figured out how to make something larger, and he just forgot. Like, come on, guys. You put yourself into a box. Now you got to work your way out.
Maybe he had a ray that could combine multiple turkeys into one turkey. And that's the thread that we're not getting. Because,
truth be told, that actually makes way more sense.
Yeah, you got to assume that he's got his big idea he's always working on, and like 5 or 6 small ideas off in the fringes that we're not hearing about.
And like, to be honest, that exists in this world. So when you, like at the beginning of Back to the Future, when you see all the inventions in Doc Brown's house, right? There's some that work and some that don't. Those are all over the Zelinsky house. So they've got like a text monitor, like, where she pushes a button and then it like blinks up in the attic and it says, like lunch. And then he types, he's like, I'll be down in a moodut. And she's like, Dad's typing with his gloves again.
Oh, that I remember thinking that would be the coolest house to live in, is to have all this high technology in. I remember thinking in terms of that too for Home Alone. I love the fact that he had a blueprint of the whole house that he had set traps and devices around. And I thought, man, what a perfect combination to have like a house where you've got inventions that make life easier and you're protected from burglars.
I have spent a lot of time in the last couple of years looking at movie merchandising because there's a nostalgic factor that they are more or less grabbing people in our generation and being like, here's something from something you love. So I spent $200 on the Home Alone Lego set, right? Which is great.
It's his house?
It's the whole house, and it opens, and you get different...
Basement?
No basement.
Okay.
I know. That's the one thing that I think is missing.
Yeah.
But the same thing in the Ghostbusters firehouse, it ends at street level, so it doesn't have the basement with the containment unit. Lego's got a problem with basements.
Add a basement, just like Sega added the Sega CD.
Yes.
Right?
I think, and there are people who've modded it.
Peripheral that just connects into, or I guess you have to mod it too, but...
Another aspect of like merchant, so for... Clearly, each of these movie studios has someone who works with the licensing, and someone approaches them like, hey, I want to make bath soap that's themed after the Wet Bandits. And they're like, great, sounds good. We want 20% of your sales. And I don't think that they say no. I think they say yes to everything. Especially the person who's working for the Jim Henson company.
Sure.
They're saying yes to everything, even though it doesn't make sense at all. They're like, oh, it's a cologne that smells like Thraw from the Dark Crystal. And I'm like, no one wants to smell like Thraw. That planet looks like it's garbage.
Yeah, and they're going, doesn't cost us anything for you
Right.
to put
And they're
that on
like,
there.
yeah, like slap one of our images on there. You can go to town. But one of the things I never understood is why they never made a puzzle out of the Home Alone blueprints.
Oh, yeah.
Wouldn't that be a great puzzle to put together?
Yes, I would love that as just a poster.
Right?
That
It'd
would be
the
fantastic.
perfect amount of like difficulty in it. But like, yeah, right. And maybe it's because they're like, listen, the best we can do is when Kevin unrolls it, but like someone's got to be able to like remake that in some way, shape, or form.
I've been trying, ever since we started today's podcast, I've been trying to remember who would be on your team of movie scientists. And obviously we've got
Wayne Zielinski.
Wayne Zielinski. I almost said Zelensky. Zielinski and Doc Brown.
Yep.
So I'm trying to think, is the Robin Williams flubber scientist?
Yes.
I don't know that character's name.
His name is his Dr. Brainerd, but what's his first name? Philip?
Okay.
Philip Brainerd?
And then
The
Nutty
absent-minded professor.
the Nutty Professor.
Yep.
I would assume.
Yep.
The Eddie Murphy Nutty Professor.
Correct.
Not the Jerry Lewis Nutty Professor.
Correct. Just like how the absent-minded professor, the Robin Williams version of that, not the one from like the 1940s.
Wait, so is absent-minded professor different than Flubber?
No.
That is Flubber.
That is the
That
yeah,
is
yeah.
the okay, got it. So, okay, thank you.
The absent-minded professor is the original name of Flubber when that movie came out like in the 1940s.
Got it.
And very famous actor who played that part, and they remade it and called it Flubber in the 90s.
Flubber triggers a nostalgia memory for me at Horace Mann Elementary School. What year did Flubber come out, do you think?
97?
97? Okay, so this would have been end of 6th grade. And at one point, I remember, for some reason, the school janitor, Mr. Tollefson,
Okay.
who then went to South after that.
Oh yeah, great
Mr.
guy.
Mr. T.
Yep.
Awesome human being. For some reason, took our class to see. Oh no, it was the crossing guards. That's what it was. If you were a crossing guard and he ran the crossing guards, he took us all to see Flubber towards the end of the year.
What?
Yeah.
That's awesome.
And I remember, like, my crush was there with us, and I was like, "This is the best day." Mr. T is taking us to see Flubber. We're getting Pizza Hut.
Do you know what it would take for someone to take kids to a movie just in general these days?
Yeah.
Let alone someone who couldn't prove like an educational thing. Be like, no, it's a reward for kids, and they're like, we don't reward children. Children don't get rewarded.
Unless it's just screen time, and that's it.
It's ridiculous. I can't remember. I'm sure I had some other movie scientists who were in there as well too. Now, part of the problem is that, you know, like Doc Brown and the Nutty Professor are both properties from Universal Studios.
Okay.
So, like, if you had to keep it just within the Disney realm, which I think probably has like a really rich, because I feel like these probably appeal more to like a family
But don't
audience.
you think they could come up with some kind of agreement like Roger Rabbit, where, you know, Warner Brothers is letting, or is it Disney? No,
It's Universal.
Universal made it.
So what's tough is like I think Universal and Disney fight the hardest because they are the closest in the realm, right? They both have successful theme parks. They both have licensing agreements with like other groups.
But Roger Rabbit belongs to Universal.
No, Roger Rabbit is a Disney
It's
project.
Disney, okay.
Yeah. But they worked with Warner Brothers,
Okay.
not Universal for that.
Right.
Right.
You were saying Universal. And
Yeah,
I was
that's what
like,
I'm saying. Like, so there's a world where I don't think Doc Brown.
got it.
and,
Yeah.
like, Maybe
I'm with you now.
maybe the Nutty Professor, because they're like, well, the third Clumps movie never came to fruition, so we're not really doing anything with that property right now.
I'm wondering then if Zelensky is Zelensky is the leader of Ukraine. Wayne
No, Zaleski.
Zaleski.
Zelensky is from the movie. Zaleski.
Z. So Z, I think he's the one who gets them all together.
Right. And
But
this
it's through like a quantum tunneling. Like he shrunk down
yeah.
so far. It's either that or they're all in the same world, but Doc Brown has to go find them in time and bring them together.
Ooh. I think that this is the project that finally gets Rick Moranis back in front of a camera, right? Like they couldn't do it with Ghostbusters, but they could do it with this.
How fantastic would it be if they literally made another Honey Shrunk movie, but just decided, let's just go weird with it. Let's go in a completely different direction and like deconstruct this whole series.
I mean, I would be behind that in such a big way. Like, I would just be going like, oh, yes, this is great. This is great.
And I would say Moranis is allowed to do whatever he wants on camera. Like when we're filming.
Oh,
like,
100%.
There's a script, but just so you know, Mr. Moranis, this is your playground to do whatever the fuck you want.
Mm-hmm.
And if he's like, let's bring in Eugene Levy, I'd be like, yeah, let's do that.
They're like, that's a great idea.
Yeah,
like,
let's
why
do
have?
that.
In fact, like, let's reunite all the living members of the SCTV cast.
That's if they did a new Honey Shrunk besides Rick Moranis, I would want Catherine O'Hara
as what?
as a new character. So introduce her to the series in some way. Maybe she's the one person who gets shrunk, and it's like, honey, I shrunk Catherine O'Hara. It's like just like a John Malkovich almost.
Do you think that we could end up having a world where it's all right to, how do I put this? Because it's a movie about inventors and scientists, so you want it to be grounded sort of in reality, even though they're doing fantastic things. But I really feel like there is a place for Gadget Hackwrench in this. But that would be a tough sell, right?
Hold on though. Is she a scientist or is she an engineer?
She's an inventor. She's an
Is
inventor.
she an inventor? Okay, so inventors, really.
Well, I mean, scientists and inventors, I think that they kind of work in the same realm. Because, like, Wayne Zelinsky is an inventor, but he uses science to invent the things that he's working on.
So the purpose is that they've created a new thing. So the Nutty Professor, it was a potion that makes him
chemistry.
suave.
Same with Flubber.
Yeah, same with Flubber. So they bring chemistry knowledge to this.
Right.
Right.
You got to have a little bit of everything.
We've got at least some physics, time travel with Doc Brown.
Yep.
I mean, I guess it's all physics on some level too.
Engineering, which I think is what Gadget would bring.
Which
to
is also
this.
what Z brings, because I can't remember now which version he is.
Wayne Zelinsky.
Wayne Zelinsky.
It's funny because do you think anyone ever was searching for some images to have the president of Ukraine and they kept putting Zelensky in there and they accidentally put a picture of Rick Moranis?
I think if this could ever happen, it would happen now, where the future textbooks will just be 50-50. You don't know which one is right.
There you go. I like that. I like that a lot. But yeah, the Honey I Shrunk the series, they're all on Disney Plus if you're a Disney Plus user. As Tucker pointed out, you could also get them on Blu-ray if you really wanted.
Long live physical media.
Yeah. One of my most precious things that I hold, like in my personal archive at home, is when we worked at the Fargo Theater. This was in an era where you were building up celluloid film prints, and studios would send you their trailers for movies, whether you were going to play them or not, because they just wanted them. But they would have to print out like a small disc, probably about twice the size of a hockey puck for a standard, right? Would that be about right size-wise? Like
for a trailer?
For a trailer, yeah.
Oh, yeah, if not a bit larger.
Yeah, and
especially if it's a string of trailers.
You would put it on to you'd put it before the movie would start, right? And I got the Honey I Shrunk the Kids trailer from the basement. Because we were getting rid of all this stuff. Like the idea was like, we got to throw out a bunch of this stuff and we got to get rid of it. And I remember going through that and finding the Honey I Shrunk the Kids trailer and being like, well, I'm not going to throw this out. That's ridiculous. And so I've got that sitting in my home. Like it's in a box, and every now and then I take it out. And the thing is, I think people think, oh, you open it up and you can immediately see this. And they're like, it is... Well, it's 24 frames per second, and the Disney logo, even at the very beginning, or the approved for all audiences, goes on for
you're gonna have to go
5
through
seconds.
A solid few feet of film before you can see an image.
Before anything, right? So, and now, people selling single pieces of film has become such a huge thing.
Yep. I in my physical media collection at some point, I do want to own like an original 35 millimeter print of the first Ninja Turtles movie.
Oh, sure.
And so they're out there, thousands of dollars, right? And I have nothing I could actually play it on, but to go like, yeah, I've got an original first run print that was shown in theaters. Maybe get it cleaned up or something like that. But that would be pretty sweet to have.
There's a world where if Disney were smart, they'd say, okay, listen, first of all, I can't believe it took Disney so long to make a streaming service, because of all the companies out there who have a catalog. That was the thing, is like Netflix for the first 7 or 8 years of their streaming didn't create anything themselves. They were just licensing other things to stream. And, Hulu starts making some stuff and Netflix start making some stuff. But if you had to just strip it down to only things that they had made, those first couple of years, it'd be next to nothing. Versus Disney had 80 years of content that was just sitting there that they owned completely. Why would you not start a streaming service way earlier? That's besides the point.
You know who should start a streaming service?
Who?
The estate of Prince.
Yeah.
Just because of how much he's got in that vault, but continue.
That's actually a really good idea. Like, that's a really, really good idea.
You subscribe to it, and every 2 weeks there's going to be a new Prince drop. And it's like, we can promise new Prince drops for the next few years at this rate, right? And you just subscribe to the Prince fan club or whatever.
Oh my God. And like, think of all the music that they could include. Like, it's not just video. It's like, it's video, it's music, it's so much stuff that's in there. Archive footage. Like, that's a swell idea. Pictures of his shoes. That would be 2 months worth of content right there. So I was surprised that Disney didn't have a streaming service right off the bat. But if Disney were smart, they would go, hey, listen, every year we are going to tour around a road show of movies. And we're going to take Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and we're going to get an original cast member, or we're going to get someone who is involved with the movie themselves. We're going to have special things like when you go at each one, they're going to give away like a small like Lego set of, that you can make the shrink ray, which, by the way, the shrink ray from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids has been a Lego idea for a while, and it needs 10,000 votes. And I really want it because I want to build that real bad. But give me a reason to go watch this thing on the big screen again. It hasn't been out since 1989, and it looks so good on a big screen because most of the effects were done in a physical environment. They were physical effects. Even like the ant, like when it's moving around and it's stop motion, and then then there's a giant one that's going after the kids, right? The shrink ray itself, even it uses like composite effects where they shot the film and then they essentially put a filter over the front of the film, like to make the electricity and stuff like that. It looks so good. Even the Bumblebee sequence, which is interesting because they had to make like a pinhole cam, and the pinhole cam had them like flying around, and then they they projected that in the back, and then they put the kid on the bee in front of it, the way that they used to do cars back in the day. So go and watch these things. It is out of this world.
JJ, the scientist from Richie Rich.
Oh, yeah.
And the robotic
Dr.
bee.
Keen Bean.
He's on the team.
Oh, Keen Bean. I believe that guy's dead now, though. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com, where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. Tucker, if I could use a shrink ray and shrink anything in my life, it'd be you, so I could carry you in my pocket.